Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I'm doing another installment in the ranking authors series that I'm doing. So the first two were Grady Hendrix and Rachel Harrison, but today we are focusing on CJ Cooke. I've basically read most of her, well, technically all of her backlist now, so I thought it was time I did a ranking video for one of my favourite authors. So CJ Cooke is an author who writes mainly Gothic fiction. So today I'm going to be ranking those from worst to best. So coming in last place is The Blame Game. The Blame Game is a domestic thriller and it's following a family, so it's very domestic, but it is psychological too. The writing style is decent, like I think she has such a good writing style. I just feel like the story just didn't hit for me, which is why I only got 3 stars, because I did enjoy the writing, I just didn't enjoy the plot. Then in 7th place, still down on the bottom, kind of on par with The Blame Game to be fair, is her debut novel, which is I Know My Name. This is another thriller and it is very psychological. I unfortunately didn't really enjoy I Know My Name all that well. I think that it was way too long for the story itself. The writing, again, is still so interesting. I just wish the story kind of hooked me in more. Then we move into our 4-star reads. The Lighthouse Witches is next on my list. This is a story that is still kind of like a thriller, but it's leaning more Gothic, which is such my vibe. I am always loving Gothic stories, which I think is why I really love CJ's writing. The Lighthouse Witches is a story following these 2 girls. They're both sisters and they go missing on a remote Scottish island. One of them turns up 20 years later and she is still the same age, even though she should have aged 20 years. Her other sister, who is still alive and not missing, kind of finds this strange, so she goes back to the island where they were, because they had to paint this mural in a lighthouse on this remote island back 20 years ago, and so she returns to kind of figure out what's happened and why her sisters turned up at the same age when she disappeared. And so the story unfolds from that point where the sister kind of learns the history of the island, her family, and the curse that is placed on the island itself, and this blur between myth and realities. It is such a warming Gothic story about sister bonding, witchcraft and superstition. Has a very deep theme in this story. In the storyline itself, you can kind of see remnants of how history is woven and echoes through different generations, and how witchcraft and superstition remains very charged in these remote areas. The Lighthouse Witches really did stand out to me, and I think it was one of the first books that I read by CJ Cooke, and it made me want to read even more by her. So it is such a incredible storyline. It's just a really magical story, and if you're someone like me who enjoys not only Gothic but also witchy books, you'll love The Lighthouse Witches too. So this was a 4-star read. Now we move on to the books that I actually have physical copies of. So now we move into the top 5, and the kind of order of these will change depending on my mood, because I've loved all of them. We had to make a decision on the top 5, so this is what I've chosen. I love them all and I would recommend everything, but I've had to put them in an ordered list. So here we are. So coming in at number 5 is A Hunting in the Arctic. This story blew my mind. I love this so much. I know I say I love Gothic and I love witches, but I am even more obsessed with the polar regions. So polar horror for me is a favourite subgenre. So this fits into that category and I absolutely love it. So let me tell you about it. So Hunting in the Arctic weaves together 3 timelines, and it's following the going-ons of this ship, the Ormen. In 1901, we're following a woman who wakes up on the Ormen, which is a whaling ship at this time, after being attacked. Then in 1973, we are following the Ormen again, but this time it's a research ship. It has been found adrift with its crew dead. And our present day timeline is following a urban explorer who climbs around the ship to explore it and where it now remains after its devastating journey in the 70s. And the present day timeline is kind of wanting to uncover the truth about what actually happened on this ship. I'm not going to tell you much more than the timelines because I think this book is magical when you don't know the actual main plot points, and you will need to go into it kind of blind because it's incredible and it will probably make your jaw drop, because it did for me. I loved it so much. The main atmosphere in here is definitely surrounding isolation, obviously the remoteness of the Arctic Sea and being alone on a ship. We explore the dynamics of power, especially in the 1901 timeline. It's very dark, but it's empowering, I think. But A Hunting in the Arctic is definitely a horror story, because we're following themes of isolation, like I said, the survival nature, the power struggles and gender disparity. It is such a powerful story and I highly recommend picking this one up. I've given it 4.5 stars. So coming in 4th place is The Book of Witching. This again is another timelined story. We are following a 2024 timeline and a 1594 timeline. So this is centered in witchcraft, could you guess? So our 2024 timeline is following Clem, who finds out her daughter was found on a remote island in Scotland, in Orkney, and she has catastrophic burns on her and she has only one memory, that her name is Nyx. Clem takes it upon herself to kind of travel to Orkney and figure out why her daughter thinks her name is Nyx, and kind of figure out what she was doing there in the first place. And then the other timeline that we see woven into the story is from Orkney in 1594. And it is following Alison Balfour, who was accused of witchcraft. She's awaiting trial, and she's going to be burned alive. So our 2 characters are separated by 400 years, but somehow are connected by a book of witching. And it is Clem's job to connect the dots and help her daughter Erin come to terms with reality again. This is a gorgeously written book. It is so eerie. There are strong themes of family and obviously witchcraft, because witchcraft is very prominent in her more recent books, which we'll kind of see throughout. It's the cost of superstition and the fear of strong women, and I think that witchcraft books are such powerful stories, and I love how CJ has been writing witchy stories. She is definitely giving the women power in the stories. It's so chilling, and I loved how our characters were woven together in this. Thought it was incredible. I do have the collector's edition, which kind of looks like this, which is so stunning. One turn of the page and you'll be bound forever. So I gave it 4.5 stars, but I think I rounded it up to 5. So it's a 5-star book. I did lie to you. I don't have a physical copy of this book yet, but that is The Last Witch, which is her most recent story, which has just been published. When you're seeing this, it's been out for a while, but it has just been published, and I got an arc of this story, and I loved it so much. I do know a lot about witchcraft, I will say. I've done a lot of research into witchcraft and I've read a lot of witchy books, not gonna lie to you, but this story was so different. This is a story that is taking the true historical facts of a certain woman and fictionalized it. So this is definitely more of a historical horror, but it's beautiful. So it's following Helena, however you want to pronounce it. So the story follows Helena, who is living in Innsbruck, and it's set in the 1400s. So Helena is like a wealthy woman. She married into a good family, but she's pretty outspoken and she really doesn't hold back. So she's considered a strong woman at this time. So her footman, like, it's not, what is it called, like a servant sort of thing? Footman, I don't know what you call it, but basically somebody who works for her family turns up dead and Helena is accused of murder. She then later finds out that she's actually accused of witchcraft. And so she's forced into this situation where she is locked up with other women accused of witchcraft. Someone has snuck in a cursed item, like a witch totem, and this is to help them escape, basically. Helena kind of has to decide if she wants to stand up to her witch accuser or risk her death by the flame. This is actually a true story in parts. There was a lot missing. CJ kind of filled in the gaps to create this story. There's a lot of themes of injustice and heavy misogyny, which is obviously the case. We all knew that these are strong themes from this time period, some today as well. The prosecution of women as witches is mainly driven by fear and power, and in one of my witch-based videos I do talk a little bit more about this theming, so I will leave that in the cards so you can check out my other witchy videos. And I think CJ did a really good job of interweaving the supernatural horror with human horror, the treatment of women and the accusations of witchcraft which are placed upon them is like the human horror, and then our supernatural is the totem and the repercussions of using the totem, and it just weaves this magical, supernatural, horrific, historical horror, and I just think it was incredible. It made me so angry to read, and I think that if this book doesn't make you angry, I don't know what's going on. The emotive elements of this story really did hit for me, and the fact that it's using real life accounts to kind of fictionalize something for us to read and kind of learn more about. If you do read this and you are interested to learn more, I highly suggest reading some non-fiction about our characters. This book was a 5-star read. Next up is The Ghost Woods. This is a story around a home for unwed mothers. It has a strong, obviously, theme of motherhood and loss, the link between a mother and a child, and the trauma of giving it up because you're forced into this home. It's also, the book explores how women were punished for their sexuality. We also follow the journey of Pearl, who is sent to Leichenhall to give birth to her child and subsequently give it up, but she kind of sees that there's a lot of secrets in Leichenhall, and so it's her job, she takes it upon herself to uncover what's actually going on, and what the woods have to do with it. So the hauntings are pretty literal and metaphoric. The hauntings kind of mimic injustices, and also because we are set in Scotland, there's a lot of folklore and Scottish myths used within the story. This one is very lyrical, superstitious. The book does give that gothic, dark, foggy-like feel, which is very reminiscent of The Haunting of Hill House. I really enjoyed this because it, like I said, delved into the injustices within these homes. It's very ghostly, gothic, and it does touch upon women who are silenced because of shame, and it's a beautiful story. And coming in first place, probably no one would think otherwise of me, but that is The Nesting. I recommend this book all the time. If you've watched my videos for a long time, you'll know in my polar horror it's a recommendation, in my favorites video it's a recommendation. Anytime I can recommend The Nesting, I'm going to. This book, I think, will never come off of the first place. When I said like it was difficult in the top 5, I really mean like the top 4, because The Nesting is always first for me. So again, this is another gothic take on the like polar elements. This is following a woman who is out of luck. She overhears a conversation on the train. She pretends to be someone and gets a job as a nanny for a family who are moving to Norway to rebuild a house that is in the forest, like near a river. And this story is very heavy on Norwegian folklore, and about like nature's revenge. If you've done wrong to the natural world, there's going to be repercussions for that, and that's what this book really is. So it's built upon lies, essentially, and that's not a spoiler because it does happen in the first chapter. And so the lies are based upon her identity. She's not who she says she is to this family. Again, another theme for CJ is isolation. This time it's isolated in the sense of human and nature. The remote Norwegian forest, the clearing of the woods, the redirecting the river for building this property. It's definitely a metaphor for isolating nature and humans, separating that, and the repercussions, like I said, from interfering with the natural world. There's also a mini theme of motherhood and loss. Obviously this family has lost their mother, and our character as the nanny is kind of stepping in to help raise and look after these children. They're kind of dealing with the grief and the loss of their mum. This story is completely based in Norwegian lores and myths, and it's just incredible. So this, like I keep saying, is very gothic and eerie. It's polar based, of course, because it's set in Norway. It's a thrilling and very domestic based story, but it is more centered around the myths and the folklore. So the supernatural elements are very heavy in this story, and I think it's just incredible. A 5-star read for me. Let me know in the comments what your favourite CJ Cooke book is. Cookbook. What your favourite CJ Cooke, book is. I would love to know. If you haven't read any of these books, let me know which one sounds more intriguing to you. I would love to know. And I guess keep your pages turning and embrace the darkness.